I do really want to thank the interstate people and mayor and whoever had whatever they did to make the lines painted on the cinder block parking structure thing behind Tommyknockers. I think it's really helping. I didn't even know it was done, and all of a sudden people were talking about it in the building, customers and the employees, about the parking out back, and they were actually being positive about it, which is not normal. So it was nice, and I've been watching it since they did it last week, and people are actually parking in the right spot. I think it's helping. As far as employees, I did look at a map of the county and going up down the corridor, and was kind of figuring rough math and total guess, but I'm thinking that the corridor to open up for March spring break or summer conditions needs an additional 60 employees. You know, if you go through every business and go 1, 2, maybe 3, maybe 4, I don't know. It's kind of a big number to comprehend, but I don't know where we're going to find this corridor up here is going to find 60 additional people to work in our businesses. That's it.
Thanks, Steve. Marcel?
Yeah, same with us as you guys over at Tommyknockers. We got steamrolled right at 11 o'clock. The restaurant was trying to fill up immediately. I had to slow it down, but you know, we got it done, and you know, I got the ads out on Indeed, and we're trying to just hire as quickly as possible. You know, it's funny convincing people just to drive over Genesee and then, you know, Floyd Hill when it's as close as it is. It's just really hard to convince people to get up here. But Mayor Mike, did you see my picture of those people parking right next to the Jersey barriers?
Yeah.
I'm willing to put up some temporary signs. Would it cost the city a lot of money to put some signs up, or is that something I can just do on my own? Or?
Let's talk about that's going to be another topic after we go through our.
Okay. Yeah.
I'm going to talk about parking and some things that I did that I'm hoping will. I threw some things against the wall that I think are going to stick and get us back in the next week. So we'll talk about that.
Yeah, outside of parking, I mean, that was the thing. But then we launched the barrels this weekend, and that went really well. Everybody's been really enthusiastic about it. And it's, you know, going to be the whether it's COVID or not, people are just loving being in those structures. And we got some fondue in there. That was a great launch this weekend. So that's been it's been my main thing. It's like opening up a whole new restaurant outside again. So, you know, but we're hanging in there.
All right. Thanks, Marcel, for the update. I don't see TJ. Greg, hadn't seen you in a meeting or two. You want to give us an update?
Hello, everybody. Yeah, absolutely. Similar thing. Sunday was the stronger than Saturday, but overall pretty good weekend. That's about it. Just plugging away. Like everybody else, staffing is the hardest thing we do. And but hopefully we can everybody can find a few people to be ready for summer.
All right. Thanks, Greg. Lindsay? Oh, Lindsay she was having troubles. Mark, Grable up in Georgetown, what's going on up there with you in the loop?
Well, we're working away, getting ready for our opening, hopefully on April 24th, I believe it is. So we're well staffed as far as the engine house and our permanent positions go. I'm a little nervous about finding seasonal help like everybody in the county. So hopefully there's still enough incentive for everybody who's not employed currently to go out and find a job. The stores in Georgetown did have a little bump up this weekend, which was nice. We're never as busy as you are in Idaho Springs this time of the year, but there's some hope on the horizon. And our reservations for the train are stronger than they have been the last 2 years, which is encouraging as well. That's my story.
All right. Thanks for the update from your operation up there, Mark. Sadie, what did you see this weekend?
Yep. Similar to everybody, I think Sunday was definitely the stronger day. And of course, when the restaurants get hit that early, people start walking around earlier because they're waiting. I think Bojo's was on a wait almost right at 11 o'clock. I had people walking around. They were waiting to get into Bojo's at 11, which is always strange this time of year. But it was nice. Again, I also noticed Marcel with the parking on was again odd this weekend. People trying to park on the Jersey barriers and blocking up on Minor again, but the interstate parking did a great job again, talking to people right away, catching people, doing it quickly and not creating massive traffic backup. But parking definitely seemed early on Sunday just was full to the brim, which was odd. But I echo everybody. Staffing is a huge concern. I'm down to no staff now. So it's going to be tight getting ready for spring break and summer.
Okay. Thanks, Sadie. Randy?
Yeah, just ditto with everybody else. For us, the Saturday and Sunday was the strongest weekend days that we've had this year. So hopefully it's an indication there's pent-up demand and people are going to want to be getting out of town and coming up.
All right. Thanks, Randy. All right. With that, let's go ahead and go into the parking situation that I was talking about. What I did is I set up a meeting with CDOT. We talked to them about once a week, every other week. And I put a pretty hard concern on them. I'm not expecting everybody to be familiar with, so when CDOT does a construction project and they come through our community, they're required to present to council and get approved what's called a 1041 permit. And this lays out some guidelines about hours of work, when they can be, where they can be, and things like that. Specifically in our document, it states that they cannot be working in our parking lots during peak seasons. And they should be working specifically, it says April and May, and what was it, November and October and November or something. There was two times that was going to be, and they haven't met that. So what I told CDOT, one is I pulled out the 1041 permit and saying, look here, item number 6, you are not complying with, and y'all are out of compliance. And, and I didn't threaten them with it. I framed it that, can you use this as leverage against Graham to get our parking lots back to us for the next 4 weeks and then come back in and finish it up? And I was very strong on that. And they understood where I was coming from. We, the city, have even gone to the point I had our city legal counsel craft a letter to CDOT calling out that you're in violation of this permit. And, do you understand that we could shut your project down right now and sue you for it? So that's not what we did. We didn't threaten CDOT. We, of course, always call them a partner. And but I was hoping that this letter from our attorney and the 1041 permit violation, that they could use that as leverage against the construction company. We hear some very negative things about the communication levels with them. They can, CDOT calls Graham up. There's no conversations. They're basically thumbing their nose at CDOT and nothing's happening. Sometimes, and I voiced to them that sometimes I go out there at 3 o'clock in the afternoon and nobody's there. Everybody's gone. If I don't remember what was it, Andy, $8,000 a day or something that the LDs are. If I was being charged, first I lost my $1.4 million no excuse bonus, and now I'm being charged $8,000 a day because I've gone over my time that I was supposed to have this project done. I would have my guys out there the minute the sun comes up to the minute the sun goes down and work at night under lights to get it done. But they're not doing that. They're not doing that. So CDOT is going to reach out to them and hopefully they will come up with something by the end of this week to get all those Jersey barriers moved to the back wall by I-70 and open that up and get some road base or millings down on the ground so it's not a big mud hole back there, and have the biggest part of our parking back for spring break month. Does anybody have any questions on that? All right, since we're on parking, Danny, you have an update for us?
Yeah, definitely. Steve, thank you for the nice compliment. We worked directly with John Bordoni to go ahead and get that back wall stripe. So Mayor, huge thank you to John for helping us get that done. We did see a lot of parkers in that lot, particularly following more of the rules on parking in the lines, which is huge. It helped us get more cars in there. Saw some weird things over the weekend, people trying to park right behind westbound and down along those barriers. So the ambassadors did a really good job in getting people directed to open spots, and the Idaho and 13th lot, lots of traffic. We did see a really big increase in traffic and spots turning this weekend. So overall, really good.
Okay, does anybody have any questions for Danny? Okay. Let's talk about our barricades again. Carla sent some other concepts to us. I have not talked with the CNC Welding about getting started on these things. Some of the designs look good, but I'm a little nervous about Lee being able to get some of the pickaxes or the wheels or anything like that, that the progress and getting these things built would take much longer. So what I did, since I've told you before that I can't even draw stick figures, I reached out to Craig Abrahamson and asked him if he would sit down and draw us up something that would look I sent him the concept that we had, and I asked him to draw us up something. He said he could do that in a half a day or a few hours, and he would get it back to us. He hadn't gotten back to us yet, but with this, he would have all the specs, dimensions, how it needs to be built, and we can go from there. So I'll wait for that design, and we'll send that out to everybody to take a look at. But I got to get this thing started. I'm spending a lot of time on this, and I don't want to have to hand it off to somebody else to get it done. But we need to get it in the workings, or we're not going to have them. And we're going to have the construction barricades out there again this summer. And that's not what I want. I don't think any of us want that. We want our downtown to look festive and clean and, and consistent. Another thing why I'm talking about that is everybody knows this is Chief Malanka's last day. At midnight tonight, he will no longer be employed by the city of Idaho Springs. Our new chief won't be here until April 5th. And Mark Hamschmidt, Lieutenant Hamschmidt's going to be the acting chief for the next month. But one thing that Chief Malanka said that he's seeing out there is, and I haven't gotten that look, but he's seeing some trash buildup and some other buildup and starting to, straw wrappers and things that are getting behind the barriers that not being cleaned up. So if you would talk to your neighbors, or if you have some of these areas, please help us keep this cleaned up so we can continue to do this. All right, let's see. Does anybody have any comments or thoughts about the barriers and how we're trying to move that along? And I really appreciate, I don't see Carla on with us. She was, but I don't see her now. But I really appreciate you, Carla, sending those designs to us and giving us some bases of what we kind of want to do. And hopefully Craig can pull something together for us pretty quick. John Kane, you have anything? What else do we have on our agenda? You're on mute.
Just general roundtable discussion.
Okay, well, let's do that. Let's, Dr. Boland, do you have anything from the medical side that you might want to share with us?
Hi, sorry, trying to unmute there. I do not have anything per se from the medical side. I usually leave that to Dr. Tim Ryan to address that. I am starting a promotion today for employers locally. I don't know if it's appropriate for me to get into that right now, but I'll be sending information about that to everyone today. everyone who is on this list, and also some other businesses as well. Anybody who has a business in town, any of their employees. So perhaps that will help with recruiting and retaining employees.
All right, thank you, Carrie.
Thank you.
Another thing about the vaccines, there's been a lot of talk about when the service industry folks will start getting vaccinated. I don't know, 1B or something. I don't know what it is now. They just keep adding numbers and letters to it. But it sounds like in the middle of the month that we will be able to start vaccinating our employees at our businesses, at restaurants and others. George, or Alyssa's not with us today. George, do you have anything to say on that item?
Well, we're kind of in the state's hands. It's just a matter of how many vaccines they give to us. I think that we're a little underwhelmed. I think they announced they plan to give us 200 over the weekend. I saw an email go out that we thought we needed much more than that. I agree with that. And there is some kind of brimming optimism associated with the Johnson & Johnson vaccine that we might see our expectations set a little bit higher in terms of how many vaccines we're going to get in the state and locally. But as far as when we might be hitting service industry folks, essential workers, I don't think I really have a better guess than what you projected, what we heard earlier.
Okay, thanks, George. All right, does anybody have any questions about that? All right, let's just open it up. We might get out of our meeting a little early today. Let's just open it up for a general roundtable. Throw out some ideas, questions, or thoughts, and let's see where they land.
Hey, let me go ahead and bring something up for George. Just, from a vaccination standpoint, even though they may be opening it up at some point later this month to restaurant workers, I would imagine that Dr. Ryan's still going to be trying to follow the priority list, and we haven't even started the group before that. I mean, we haven't even started, I don't think, the 65 to 70 age group yet. So I'm not sure when, no matter what the state says, if they're following the priorities here in town, it's hard to say when we're going to get to that next level. Am I kind of on target, George? Or?
Yeah, I think you are. We're still not where we need to be on the 70 plus. Of course, we, took a side track and got all the teachers vaccinated that ordered. But I mean, we're behind in Clear Creek, and we're alarmed about it. We're frustrated with the state. A couple of counties to the west of us have there's an 1,800 vaccine difference on a per capita basis between what we received and what they have. If we had those 1,800 vaccines, we would be today probably vaccinating your staff. And so it's something that we're frustrated with.
Hey, George. This is Lindsay. My mom lives in Grand Lake, and she just got vaccinated at the pharmacy and didn't have to pay for it. So it was part of the just overall vaccination efforts. Maybe there's a way when we are getting vaccines in for just help with distribution and getting more and more out, is maybe we could partner with the pharmacy in Idaho Springs or something.
Idaho Springs is receiving their own, the Idaho Springs Safeway is receiving their own distribution. Apparently it's part of a federal government contract. And something that I think we haven't done a great job as a county government is making people aware of those appointments. I know last week there were a handful of appointments that were still open, and vaccines that, that was 12 hours before an appointment, there was something still open, which means that we could have done a better job communicating.
Okay. Yeah, because they're not charging anything. She didn't have to pay for it, and she's already scheduled for her second round. So are those vaccination numbers at the pharmacy being calculated in with our overall numbers for the county?
I don't think that we're getting good information out of the Safeway pharmacy about who they've vaccinated and who they have not vaccinated. The whole puzzle of trying to figure out how much of our community we vaccinated was greatly complicated when they said that we couldn't ask where people live. because we just don't know like what our denominator is to know. I mean, we know we've vaccinated this number of people, but how many were from Jeffco, et cetera.
And with that in mind, can't Clear Creek County residents go to Jeffco or down to Denver or whatever and get their vaccinations?
Yeah, I mean, I actually saw somebody post on Facebook this morning that they, having registered as a service industry employee with Kaiser Permanente, got an appointment scheduled for a vaccine through them. And that was news to me as of this morning, but I mean, it is kind of that approach, and there's software out there that people can use to check multiple appointments at the same time and stuff. And I would encourage everybody to do that.
I know Centura is reaching out to all their patients as well, because I know my mom got an email from them.
Right. Thank you.
Yeah, that's another element of that, is that Centura did get a bunch of vaccines, and I have not heard that they have any plans of distributing them in Idaho Springs. We're starting to ask them when they plan on bringing some up here.
Sadie, I see you pushing some emails around and getting some feedback from Marcel and other of our downtown business owners. Can you kind of frame up of what you're thinking about? I'm hoping that John Kane's been working with you to see how we're going to be able to make these things and come to fruition, and kind of talk to the group about some of the ideas that y'all been coming up with.
Yeah, we've been really productive so far. We're having we've been doing kind of an email thread of idea swapping and agreements on, we've gotten agreements from restaurants about who's going to sponsor music on what days. For the summer, I've been working with John and with Andy, kind of talking about just the different thoughts and ideas. We're having our first roundtable meeting of Minor Street managers and business owners on Wednesday to kind of finalize some of the commitments, as well as some of a logo idea, as well as some consistent branding. We've really been getting great cooperation from everybody involved, being able to offer up really creative ideas. So we definitely have ideas on activating the spaces that aren't going to be activated by businesses. So for example, areas that were empty on Minor last year, we'll be able to activate those with some sponsored activities, some sidewalk chalk with a logo of a business on it and the Minor Street Market logo, as well as John and I have talked about the beer garden, and I think that the majority of the people that have been interested have kind of agreed that walking forward with the beer garden idea is going to be the best first step moving forward, so that there's that kind of consistency and talking through. So John's been very helpful to getting us the ideas of what we can and can't do and how to get it done. So we're really looking forward to our meeting on Wednesday to really finalize a lot of those ideas. And yes, Cass, I can send you the meeting invite. I'd love for you to participate as well. So we'll be doing that on Wednesday, and then I anticipate that I'll have a really nice update for you guys next week on Monday with some more finalized, this is for sure what we're doing, this is for sure what we would like to recommend us to do, kind of, and who wants to do what.
All right. Thank you, Sadie, for that, and taking on that role and trying to pull something together that it takes a lot, for the downtown businesses to be forming some sort of group to try to do this, and bring in Cassandra in, of course, is going to be very important. We're going through with the Idaho Springs Chamber right now, but I think that we ought to, well, John's on that board, so we do have representation from our local chamber too, so that's good. All right. Cassandra, you're raising your hand. You have something?
Yeah, I just wanted to share some really interesting numbers. Can you hear me okay? Mm-hmm. So the Colorado Tourism Office came online today, and they had MMGY Global do some research on travel forecasting for the summer. So I thought I'd share that if you guys are interested. And So basically, what they found is that travelers are looking to get away and de-stress and have a mindset of caution, but a desire to travel. 47% are choosing to stay close to home. 72% plan to travel by car. And July through September is going to be their focused travel time, with another 25% following in October to December. So 40% July through September, 25% October through December, and then just April through June is only 17%. So we have a couple months to wind up to the big peak period push is what they're calling it. And then they're trying to encourage us to play off of the emotions and the Come to Life brand campaign. So really just, inspiring travel around the state. And so we're going to be working with the state tourism office on some marketing. And just wanted to share that with you. I think these are some interesting travel facts. And, I think everybody's a little bit, hopeful of what's to come this summer. And so again, just thought I'd take 2 seconds to share that. I think it's pretty cool.
All right. Thanks, Cass, for updating on that. All right. Anybody else? Another thing that I want to talk about real quick. Last Monday night, might have been 2 weeks now, City Council had a work session and talked about special events and how we would allow those to move forward. Consensus of the council with the unknown, because we were at that point, we were in orange. Is that right, Andy? Orange? Yeah, I think we were in orange. And we didn't know what was going to happen. The last thing, a couple of angles that I was looking at is one, somebody spending a bunch of money on a festival or an event, and we find out that our COVID levels became more restrictive and those events couldn't happen, and then the city having to say, sorry, you can't have this event because of this. We didn't want that. The city getting in conflict with a event planner and an event planner spending a lot of money and then finding out that they've spent money and they can't have their event. Since then, I think it was even the next day or the 2 days after that work session, all of a sudden we transferred into a blue level, which is, not much different than our level before, but it does actually open up some things that we can do. So council tonight is going to talk about still go ahead and allowing for applications of special events. And there will be some language on these applications, that will talk about COVID levels going to more restrictive, what would happen in that case. Things like that we haven't done before is you have to have a plan and it has to go through the county public health and get signed off on public health. Already our special events has to be signed off on police and fire. We're just going to add public health to it so that they can look at it, and they've got Rebecca Abrahamson. She looks at that. That's her job, is to make sure that what they're laying out has spacing properly. You have a plan in place, and how you can control the crowd, how you're going to control how many people you have come into the event. Because that's a big problem too. How do you, if you can have 150 people there, so then I'll just throw rapid grass out there. How are you what's part of your plan that you're going to be able to count people coming in and count people going out? So we're gonna re-entertain that tonight on council and get input from our council to see if they're on board. I think with going to blue, and from what I heard on the TV, maybe even green by summer, maybe even June, which would be huge for us. So does anybody have any thoughts on that? I see a bunch of burros running by right now. So, and let's see, I see some runners running down the path under the bridge from Marcel's place, and it's unfortunate, that we've had, Marcel has contacted me a couple of times. He does this run every year, and, Marcel understood why we couldn't do the special event and how that would look and perception of the public and things. So Marcel, I appreciate you, supporting us doing that. And we are going to try to make it that we can schedule special events for this summer with some conditions attached to that application that the applicants will understand. Does anybody have anything on that?
Mike, I might just add, obviously it's a hard decision and all of that. By mid-March or the end of March, we should know from the state how they're changing the requirements at the different levels for like events and restaurants, et cetera. That's dial 3.0. I don't have any intel on what that will look like, except I have the general understanding it will be looser and not tighter. And so that, I don't know how that fits into the timeline of you needing to decide and get back to applicants, but that's kind of a date I'm looking at or an event I'm looking at to have some clarity moving forward for this summer.
Okay, thanks for that, George. I saw Alyssa pop in. Alyssa, do you have any updates that you'd like to share with us, or something that might make all of our lives easier? And then
hi, everyone. Sorry I was late. I had a meeting with the Colorado Restaurant Association. I think the only update I have is that we got an email about PPP. Make sure you guys, if you're looking to apply for it, that you get your application in. I'm happy to forward information to anybody that needs it. As far as grants go, we don't have any new information about anything like that. I don't think I have any other updates.
All right, thank you, Alyssa. Let's see. If I was told, and if you haven't heard, you need to get with your accountant for your business. There is something called a employee retention credit. And I know that there's been a couple of members on this call that have already been doing that or having their accountants doing it. I was told I needed to look at it, and I got some very good direction, and I got to read up on it, but it looks like there's some money there that our businesses can get back after PPP. Randy, could you maybe give us a short explanation on that?
Yeah, happy to. Great phone call. Well, the employee retention credit was something that was available with the first CARES Act. George is going to get up and dance. Hang on, let me silence this. It was available with the original CARES Act, but people who received paycheck protection programs, money could not participate in the ERC. When the kind of new bill came out in December 27th of 2020, it basically revised that and said that people who did receive PPPs could apply for the employee retention credit as long as they weren't double dipping. There were some very basic requirements to it, but for the most part, it gives you up to $10,000. You can get a credit against your payroll taxes of 50% up to $10,000 of employee earnings in 2020. So as long as you didn't use that money in PPP or any other grant programs, you could claim that employee retention credit. And then when it changed, when you go into 2021, instead of a $10,000 limit annually, it became 50% or 70% of a $10,000 earnings limit quarterly. So it became substantially better. And for those of you who haven't looked into it, it is a significant source of support. If you look at it, it's called the Employer Retention Tax Credit.
And I'm actually going to have Lindsay, I'm going to work with Lindsay to maybe come up with a list of things that you should do to get this done, and see if we can help everybody. It is a little confusing. Randy explained it to me for about an hour the other day, and when I hung up and started looking at it, my head started spinning again. So, and Randy said that he even had to talk to a couple of other people to make sure that what he was saying was lined up and true and correct. So I'll work with Lindsay to see if we can put together something, and maybe even work with Randy that makes it easy for everybody to go in and figure out how to do this, and for us to share with the rest of our business community, and not just in Idaho Springs, but Clear Creek County as a whole.
Yeah, I have an email out to our CPA, and so, I mean, my understanding, and again, as Mike said, it's a little complicated. So to start, I would just recommend that everyone reach out to their CPA. There's just so many programs that have been available, and so making sure one doesn't overlap the other is definitely going to be a challenge, at least for 2020, with everything that came available. So yeah, definitely talk to your CPA, and then Mike and I will see what we can put together as kind of a pulling fact sheets together and whatnot.
Hey, Mike, let me just throw in, I mean, from an eligibility standpoint, you're eligible for the employer retention tax credit if you saw a 50% decline in revenue in any particular quarter in 2020. And if you did, you continue to be eligible under this criteria until the quarter after you exceed 80% of what your revenue had been in the prior quarter in 2019. There's another point of qualification that is separate. So this is an either or. It's either the 50% decline in revenue, or if your business has been shut down or partially shut down by government order. And in which case you are eligible and you remain eligible until you are no longer partially or fully shut down by government order. So every restaurant is eligible for the ERC just based on the shutdown criteria. And it is like getting another PPP. It is not a small amount of money. It's worth the energy to go after it.
All right. Again, Lindsay and I will pull together a fact sheet, check with your accountants and see, or your CPA, to see if they can help you along with that. So it looks like we're doing a little backwards here. Dr. Ryan, thank you for joining us. I knew you had another meeting after we talked to you earlier. If you want to take the next 10 minutes or so, just to kind of give the group an update and some thoughts and where you think we might be heading over the next several months into the future.
Sure. Thanks, Mike. Sorry, I'm late, everyone. So as you all know, we're in blue. We maintain that level status as of today. Our testing is going very well. We saw an increase this last week of folks who got tested, which is great news. We're also shifting the modality of testing from nasal swab that's very uncomfortable to you spitting in a test tube, or what they call sputum test. So making that shift as of tomorrow, which is great. What does it mean on this end? It means that we're going to get our test results back 24 hours sooner, because the lab that processes the saliva, if you will, is in Loveland, Colorado, as opposed to Texas or California. So the efficacy or accuracy is the same between the nasal swab and the saliva test. So we thought it prudent to switch to the saliva test. One, it's a little more convenient for folks testing, but also it is giving us test results sooner, which is really a huge priority for us. So that's the front on testing. On vaccines, we continue to strive to get more. We had a communication this weekend with Director Ryan, and we're hoping that results in a significant increase in our vaccines, potentially starting this week, at the end of this week. So we're having a clinic on Wednesday. We will likely have a clinic on Friday, Saturday, and Sunday. Not preferred, but we have the potential to get out a significant number of vaccines if we get them from the state over the weekend. So I'm asking a huge ask for my staff to work basically all weekend and to get those rolled out. So more will be coming once we have that solidified and the details nailed down. But we're continuing to vaccinate. As I said, we'll have a clinic for sure Wednesday and Thursday, with potentially another one Friday, Saturday, Sunday. Trying to work around, in addition, all of the traffic that you folks so love and enjoy. But from a vaccination rollout, it's a pain in the butt. As far as our numbers are concerned, we had 3 or 4 cases last week. We have 4 active cases right now in the county. Continuing to monitor those folks and obviously reach out and do the contact tracing with them. As of last Friday, we have all the faculty and staff vaccinated in the entire school district, with the exception of 15 individuals. We're still going to get them scheduled. A lot of folks went off on their own to Denver, other places, and got vaccinated, but we did get a big chunk a couple weeks back. So probably by the end of next week, we should have all staff fully vaccinated, or their first vaccination anyway, in the school district. This is the season for special event planning, as most of you are aware, and we have already begun to get permit applications or application approval around their event. And in my conversation with Mayor Hillman earlier and Andrew, the process that we're implementing is you apply with the caveat that it needs to be approved not only by those issuing the permit. So if, as an example, it's an event in Idaho Springs, you need Idaho Springs permit. But in addition to that, we're asking they have a COVID plan. So for instance, in running events, making sure that the beginning and end of the event is really the pinch point, and that's where the emphasis of their plan, the COVID plan, is. You know, in these running events and biking events, the probability is quite low of getting COVID. You're not really near anybody for very long. You're either at the front, the middle, or the back. You know, the congregation is really at the end of these things or in the beginning. So that's the emphasis we're having with the planners for these. In addition, these are all contingent on a 4-week prior to the event review, meaning we can approve an event that's 4 or 5 months from now, but to be quite honest, we don't know what the world's going to look like in 4 to 5 months. So it can look a lot better, at which point we will say to the organizers, you have a green light to go full throttle on the event, and or things are not looking good and the current approval you have, we're going to have to cut that in half or come up with a different plan. We're working with all of them to make sure that they can run without incident. We want all of these events to occur. All of them so far have been outside, which is a huge plus, obviously, for the event, and poses significantly less risk than it does just going to a restaurant on average. So we're really trying to work with the organizers to make sure the events can happen, but happen in the safest way possible. So we've been actively trying to reach out to these events, and they have subsequently gotten back to us. So we're working with them in similar fashion that we've worked with Loveland Ski Resort and Echo Mountain to put together their plans. We don't have the bandwidth to put together these events plans, but we're more than happy to review them and work with them and help them tweak them to make sure that they're as up to date as possible. Any questions so far? As far as vaccines are concerned, I'm circling back on this. The word that we have from the new administration at the national level is a tidal wave is coming of vaccines. We don't know exactly what that means yet. We're planning and have planned the events, for instance, Friday, Saturday, Sunday. We're hoping to vaccinate 500 people a day. And so we have the ability to vaccinate up to 1,000 individuals a day. And so we're ready that if we find ourselves in the very fortunate situation to have 1,000 vaccines a week or every other day, we're fully ready and able to get those out as quickly as possible. The other update on that is, I'm sure you're all aware, the Johnson & Johnson or Janssen vaccine has been approved. It will land in Colorado soil, I believe, tomorrow or Wednesday at the latest. And then will be disseminated out to, I think, predominantly to LPHAs, to Public County Health. And so we're hoping to be the recipient of many of those doses starting this weekend. Questions, comments, concerns? My crystal ball still does not work, so don't ask me what 3 months from now is going to look like, because I don't know. I am hopeful and optimistic, but I'm also realistic, and I see some things that are troubling, like people who get vaccinated somehow think that the world has changed and they don't have to wear a mask anymore and they can go about their business. That isn't a reality, unfortunately. The other thing is, until our case count across the country dropped significantly. 70,000 cases a day is, I know it's low, significantly lower than what we've seen over the last 3 months, but it is nowhere near what it needs to be for us to quote unquote go back to normal, particularly with the variants that are out there. The current estimate is that the UK variant will be the predominant variant or the predominant virus out there moving forward in the next several months. So given its increase in transmissibility, that's a problem and one that everyone is sort of paying attention to and looking at. So, Chip?
Dr. Ryan, what is the prevalence of the variants in Colorado? Here on Maui, actually, we've just been seeing a real increase because they've discovered that the variant that's really a lot of them in California is real prevalent here on the island. We've just been seeing huger numbers than we've ever seen. So that's really concerning. So
yeah,
the variants looking there.
The state is actively and has for the better part of 6 weeks now has been doing some active surveillance, meaning they're diverting a number of samples across the entire state to the state lab so that they can run that analysis. In addition, they're doing what we call convenient sampling. They're taking samples from jails in a number of other settings like nursing care facilities, et cetera, to really get a handle on that. The state epidemiologist, Dr. Hurley, he said even last week, her hope is to double or quadruple the number of tests that they're actually looking at each week to make sure that they're getting a robust sample to keep a handle on that or keep their thumb on that, make sure they do have a sense of how much is in the state. It is here. A number of the variants are here. I believe two different variants are here, the UK and the South African one. So it's not yet out of control and to the point where it's a major concern, but the state is actively trying to increase their ability to detect it so that if it does become a bigger problem, they can at least extinguish it as quickly as possible. But given the state we're in the sense of the number of people who come to visit from elsewhere, unlike Hawaii, we don't have the ability to quarantine people when they arrive and all those sorts of ideal public health measures. So we're sort of at the mercy of people just doing the right thing. But again, it's going to go back onto the people who live here and living by example and really reinforcing with your patrons, hey, you need to put your mask on. You need to do this. And really be vigilant in our efforts because we're not out of the woods yet. Yeah, we have a full arsenal and we're fully weaponized, if you will, but the battle is not yet won. To use a war analogy, and I'm not sure why I chose a war analogy for that, but you get my point that we're well suited to move forward, but some things, good things still need to happen, and unfortunately, we're at the mercy of people's behavior, generally speaking. So my wife was just in Florida this last week taking care of her parents, and she said Florida is, people don't wear masks there at all. She was absolutely blown away. And she said, how can their numbers be so low? And I said, well, when you have a governor who controls the data, your numbers can say whatever they want. I'm not accusing Governor DeSantis of doing anything illegal, but the numbers don't probably necessarily reflect the reality on the ground, given the lack of mask wearing and the significant number of folks who are there from outside other states. So I'll leave it there.
Okay. Do we have any questions for Dr. Ryan or anything that we need to try to get clarification on? All right. Thank you, Dr. Ryan, always for joining us on Monday in this meeting. All the information that you bring to us is very important, and us continuing to protect our community and protect our businesses. With that, I'm sure that most of you have heard that Breckenridge has come up with a ordinance or a resolution that they have basically drew a map of an area that is required. And they're hired a couple of security folks, if you will, to walk up to people and say, hey, you don't have a mask on. We talked about something like that in our staff meeting this morning. I don't think that when we have the people to be able to enforce it, and with as small as our downtown is, I think we could probably do a pretty good job of asking people ourselves without going to a mandatory area. If you're in this area, you're outside, you have to have a mask on. So we didn't want to move into that direction. Okay, 1 minute. Any other comments or questions? All right. Craig did not get back with me yet. As soon as I have something, I'll send an email out to everybody and get some opinions on it, and we'll get this thing moving forward with the barriers.
What is the time frame for the school for spring break? I'm not sure if they're even in class or if they're doing spring breaks as normal or what.
Yeah, Carla, do you know what our spring break is?
Yeah, spring break is the last week of March for us. Let's see, it's the 20.
Clear Creek is the 22nd through the 26th.
22nd through the 26th, and then I know
that's also most metro area schools are also doing the 22nd through the 26th. The one thing I'm not sure about that may affect us tourism wise is colleges. A lot of colleges are not doing spring break this year in hopes to reduce gathering and spread and travel. I know in years past, we see a significant amount of college tourism over like the 15th through like the end of March. I think majority of major universities are not doing spring break this year, but metro area schools as well as Clear Creek are doing the 22nd through the 26th of March for spring break.
Sadie, the only thing I'd throw in there is just my gut is that since even in the colleges, they're doing a lot of distance and it's spring break whenever the students want it to be spring break. So if they think it's party time the last 2 weeks of March in the mountains, they'll be up here.
Mm-hmm.
And looking at my records, this coming up weekend is when it kind of starts. We're going to start seeing those Texans and, people from Georgia start to come in. So I think this weekend will, slowly start. And then the next couple of weekends and weeks should be very good for us up here.
Everybody go out, wash the car so it snows.
There you go. All right. Well, thanks, everybody. Again, if you ever have any questions, thoughts, or updates for us, Sadie, keep sending those updates of what's going on with your group. I really appreciate y'all doing that. That's huge for us to have a group like y'all to put things together like this for the council to look at. So, all right. Thanks, everybody. Have a great rest of your week.